Mont Sainte Victoire in Aix-en-Provence. Uh, Paul Cezanne spent most of his life exactly here. Now, recently, a friend of mine, Ruth, went there and she sent me a really nice photograph. So I thought I would use this for a recent Zoom demo, and that's something I'd like to share with you today. Please take a screen grab and let's get cracking. So it's sort of when I got this, I started thinking about Paul Cezanne. And again, Paul Cezanne, he was born in 1839. He was, as I say, a French Post Impressionist, and he sort of bridged the gap between the Impressionists and the Cubists, and that's reflected in his work. He was very much an Impressionist when he started, following in the footsteps of the great Impressionists like Monet and people like that. But then as he went through his life, and he died in 1906, so he went through the almost into the Picasso period of cubism, and which is quite interesting. This is a Cezanne watercolor. I know this one fairly well because it's in the Tate Britain, not far away from where I am here. And this is a watercolor, but it's so stylized, isn't it? It's not the way I teach. I can't teach that. That's somebody who's got their own thing. These are all flowers, and there's lots of color going on. There's not this massive bit of green and blue. It's got his own colors. So I'm beginning to think, hang on a minute, maybe it's not all about just painting that. What would Paul Cezanne do? And he paints that. But this is one of his watercolors, and very interesting when you go when you go and see Cezanne's work. There's a couple of his tins of his watercolors which are really fascinating, and the makeup paints that he uses Sennelier, and it starts Sennelier was a chemist, pharmacist originally, and he'd started moving into watercolor pigments, and Sennelier became really famous, and Cezanne was one of the first first artists to use Sennelier watercolors, and this is painted with Sennelier watercolors. It's amazing, isn't it? Let's just have a quick look at some of the other things Cezanne did. Just want to touch on this. There is green here, but there's like loads and loads of warm, isn't there? There's loads of warm. We're learning, aren't we now? Look at that red down there. We're learning now, aren't we? We got the big blue, but we got pinks, we got greens, but we got reds, and we got things going on in here. Very expressive. Then we look at this. We got a big dark area here. So he's got some values. This big dark area makes that area look light. The mountain itself has got very light, lovely sky, beautiful, beautiful. And again, looking at our reference, looking at what Ruth sent me, which is still lovely, but it's keeping us in a very blue and green place, isn't it? Whereas Cezanne is just getting earth colors. This is an oil, but you can see it's got this wonderful ochre colors, the raw siennas that we use a lot, all of us use, and we love the blues as well. And finally, this one of his real famous paintings. I mean, I'm really quite familiar. I went to art college. I'm really familiar with a lot of Paul Cezanne, and it's again, look at the richness of colors. You can do this yourself. You can do this. But the big question I've got is that what he saw? If he could show me a photograph, what would it look? What would the photograph look like? You know, he's clearly. I don't think it would look like that. I think he's not a slave, is he, to what he sees? He's the master of what he wants to do, and which is quite pretty apparent. So the big question is, what am I going to do with that? I've already done a quick scamp. In fact, I've done a couple of scamps here, just to see what might happen. And I sometimes do this, and I've never really spoken much about this, is that I sometimes paint really very small, which is, I know you're thinking, really? You know, but not with a small brush, with a fairly big brush, you know, with a nice I did it with a Rosemary and Co. a number 6. Let's have a look. Sorry, it was a number 8, Rosemary and Co. I use this brush and I use these colours and I'll show you what I painted. That's what I painted. I mean, that is like 1 inch by 1¼ inches. But it was trying, you can do it really small because then you can get yourself an idea of what the values look like and what the general shape, you know, the composition looks like. I'll try and lift this up until you can sort of see it. Actually, you can get really quite in there. Paint really tiny, tiny, tiny. You can't paint any more detail into it. You just can't do it. And it makes you just pull out the things that are important. One of the things I sort of don't like, and I haven't seen it on any of Cezanne's work, it's a bit framed, isn't it? Like I've got a bush there and a bush there, and I'm looking through the middle. I sort of don't like that. That's just me. And I don't think Cezanne would have liked that either, because I haven't seen a painting where he's got a big bush one side and a bush. He's got a bush one side and then not the other. So I think there's sort of something in that. And I think this might be a really good opportunity to do a really big sky. So, and the mountain, of course, is the pin. This is the pinch point. This, I want to come down a bit here. I want a big sky. The way you look with your own eyes, if you were there, you would see things in a different way. I mean, the camera's making these little buildings incredibly small. But if you were there, you might feature more of those buildings. I'm taking you on a little journey here that I think is important for en plein air painting. So don't just look at a scene, but what is it you want from that scene? So let's carry on. Let's get this little, it's like a ridge. That bit there is really important, that top of that. And again, Cezanne, when he painted, he made sure he got that shape of the mountain right. He didn't try and fudge it. That's about it. I'm going to do my first wash now. And I paint it in the way that I want to paint it, then that's fine. I'm going to come all the way down because the mountain is sort of blue anyway. Down a little bit. And this is where we think about how do we want that. I think I might start with French ultramarine for a change. High up where it's dark. And then maybe come down to cerulean. Just get some cerulean going. And maybe a couple of clouds, I think. Don't often put French ultramarine in the sky. To be honest with you. Just dropping in a little bit of that warmth in here. It's still very wet. I don't mind. I'm doing a Paul Cezanne. I mean, we can't paint like Paul Cezanne, but look at that. It's unusual, isn't it? How are we supposed to do? We're not. That's because we're not Paul Cezanne. We're humble servants of art. Again, very experimental. It's the way it should be. I tell you what, I'm going to get some. This is crazy, but I'm going to get some of this. What was it? Cerulean. Just some of that cerulean is now going into the. These are decisions that only you can make. Whether it works or not, only time will tell. And I won't know. Just going to get back a bit more of that cerulean just in here. And I'm sort of thinking potential values, but I'm not going too dark just yet because it's early days. And again, very much like the way I just painted the mountains on the last one. Bits I can always come back. Quite important, that point. Just capture that mountain. Start getting into greens now. I hate this bit. Stick with my olive. I've also got some turquoise here, which gives it a slightly different look, different type of shade. And we sort of want, when you're doing these cypress trees, you want them to be sort of dark. Want it to be pretty dark. I'm putting some indigo in with the green mix I've got. I quite like these cypress trees. Mine are a little bit more pronounced than they are. It's just nice painting with a brush, isn't it? It's what Paul Cézanne would have done. He would have mark making with his hog hairs. He was doing the old oils. So we got those. Maybe want to put another one just up here. And one more. Just a few marks, not too many. Here now. It's the difficult bit is how you play with foliage, how you play with certain greens. Sure, you'll all do well here with this in your own particular way. See, I think it's just nicer having, you know, personally, I think it's nicer having a bush one side and then the pinch point occupying this area here rather than snugly in the middle of something, which I find a bit sort of awkward. It's a way to ruin a brush. Don't tell Rosemary and Co. I just did that. It's all funny. So get some of that green going now. Nearly there. 5 minutes. Just trying to keep it light and not overdo it. Didn't put any houses in. I completely forgot about that. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Let's put in a bit of calligraphy and we're done. Right, stop. That's very loose impression of making the mountain the hero. I think to be honest, I think I might have got him a bit big. I could change that slightly by bringing some of this green further up, but I can't be asked. It is what it is. It's a fast and loose watercolor. I quite like this bit over here. I like that cerulean grass bit. That was a bit of a, just shows you can make you can try things. It might not always work, but I think that works really well. Right, okay, well, that's the end of that. I'll show you what I did when I did a quick scamp of that. And I used fallow green. So this is very acidic. This is a nice subtle green. Wait till you see this. Yeah, that's a lemony sharp. Again, done super quick. What I was really pleased with here was the sky. I thought I got the sky really good. I like the mountain. I love the way the mountain was captured. just enough dark and light, much stronger than the way I've just done it now, but similar, similar. I did have this tree either side there and there, and it actually didn't work that badly, but I think I prefer it like that. I don't know. And you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I think. It's what you think. It's what you think is a good composition. There's my little version. There's the big version. So we've got tiny, medium, and large, and every one of them is slightly different. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. It was great learning a little bit about the man himself, Paul Cezanne. What an artist. What a wonderful way of painting. You know, so when you do paint this, when you do paint this, that don't be a slave to all the greens going on. Do a Cezanne and do your own thing, and bring that mountain to life. Just make it happen. This is just one expression in watercolor. There are, I think when this is dry, I might just make a few more little marks of some of those. Right, there we are. The painting is now complete. Here we are, the main pinch point, Mont Sainte Victoire, made famous by Paul Cézanne. Really important part of the painting, obviously. I've added a little bit of dark here and there, and I've added a bit of calligraphy with the pointed side of the brush, just to give it some action, get a bit of vitality going. I've also got some darker trees in here, just filled in a little bit without overdoing it. That's really important, watercolor. Don't overdo it. And finally, I'm really pleased with that cerulean brought down into the grass area. It looks like that grassy area is sort of in the shade without having to make it darker. It's still luminous, but it tells the brain that it's the shade, because that's very cool compared with that area, which is very warm. Anyway, listen, I really hope you've enjoyed this little demo. Come and join me on a real one. It's every Wednesday at 2:30 UK time. All information can be found on my website, which is frankwatercolors.com. Hope to see you again soon. Bye.